All right, hello. I feel like answering random questions, so I'm going to do that. By first, I want to start by saying that I seem to be in a little bit of a high energy mode lately, so that's kind of the purpose of making this video. But actually, for once in my life, I feel interested in answering random questions, so it should be interesting. Let me just move back a little bit so we can see more of me. There we go. Okay. I have five randomly generated questions from microapp.io. Okay, so here we go. Let me just quickly resize my window here so that I can uh, make sure I can see everything. Uh, Sorry about that. Okay, what do you consider to be the most important quality in a friend? Trustworthiness. Because if you don't have trust, then there's just like, why bother? Um, I don't want to be friends with people who I can't trust. Uh, why would you? I think that's like I don't know. It's pretty straightforward. These are supposed to be open ended, but I feel like I just have a straightforward answer to that. Maybe I could have a debate with someone, but like as is, no. What do you think are the most pressing issues facing society today, and how do you believe they should be addressed? I don't know. I mean, like on a super long time scale, all of most of our issues don't really matter. So like, I don't really care. But and I just like, okay, this is the modern instantiation of the world we live in. Okay, and just deal with everything as it is and as it comes. But so I don't really get upset about political issues because I just know that it's just we're just a one point in a really long wave or something of life, and all our political issues will be solved or not solved, and like so be it. Um, it'll never stay the same because then there came a king who didn't know Joseph, and then we'll just repeat. So I think investing too much energy into politics is kind of a waste of time unless you're in it for personal power. Um, I mean, we have trended upwards over time, but I think politics, I think technology is something that can definitely trend upwards over time. But politics, I think, is a bit fickle. It's more fickle, I think. And I wouldn't be shocked if within a couple hundred years our society was just, like we have political cycles that last only like a couple hundred years or something. Whereas our technological cycle has been going linear. It can go backwards if we face, I don't know, some shit. There's also the issue that like all of our technology is built upon stuff. So currently, right now, nobody really knows how to like make everything from scratch. And in the future, that's going to be even more the case, right? Um, so that's also another interesting thing. If our technology somehow gets reset, but even then, we have documentation of all of our technical knowledge. So somebody smart should be able to come along and figure it out pretty quickly. So, what do I think the most pressing issues facing society today? I guess, given that I don't care about it, there's still like pressing issues. Or like I can still pick some issues that I find most pressing, and I think what I find most pressing is probably the fact that people don't have a place to live. That's weird. That's not normal. Everyone should have a home. Everyone should feel some level of safety and security. Now, with that being said, there is a strange unwillingness in our times to share housing with others, which I think is part of the reason. And combined with our population is why we have so much of a housing problem, especially where I'm in the Netherlands and where I come from, Canada, two of the countries with some of the biggest housing crises in the world. It's incredibly difficult to get a house here if you're not higher income, and obviously you can't just say, oh, I'll just get a better job, bro, because obviously there's always going to be people who make less. That's just not how the economy works. Um, so it's a real thing that needs real solving. Um, yeah, I do think people need a place to live, but I do think the solution to that is simply just live with your family, or more people to a house. Because having a house is worth more than having an extra room, right? If you catch my drift. Back in the day, multi-generational homes were the norm. Frankly, if you divide the household labor, it's also more efficient for everybody. But I understand that privacy is nice to have. But I will say that we live in an unprecedented era of privacy. Okay, what are some goals or dreams that you have for yourself in the next 5 years? Within the next 5 years, um, I would like to be a Dutch citizen. And in doing so, I'm going to need to improve my skills in the Dutch language, which I already have been. Been making pretty fast progress in the last 2.5 weeks since I moved here. Um, so I'm pretty happy with that, but I think I need to get on a more regimented schedule. What I do right now is I just like, I hear conversations and I see signs and stuff and I ask like, what's that word? What's that word? What's that word? And I try to speak Dutch every now and then, like ik leer Nederlands. I can have some interactions with cashiers and stuff. They ask me if I want a bon and I'm like, nee. Or actually now I'm supposed to say ja graag because we're trying to keep track of our finances. Which means yes, please. I'm still trying to learn how to roll my R. Vroom. That's the word I use to practice rolling my R's because it's just really easy for some reason. So my goals and dreams in the next 5 years are going to be. Also, I want to get our Airbnb. We want to get our Airbnb profitable. We have a big Airbnb in the shape of a giant clog. It's in the Netherlands. It's really fucking epic, but right now it's struggling a little bit. So we want to get that off the ground. Okay, what is the a goal you have set for yourself recently, and what steps are you taking to achieve it? So a goal I've set recently, very recently, is to get a more regimented life, and I want to wake up every day at like 7:30, except for maybe the weekends. Then go for an exercise. I went biking this morning. Biking is great, makes me feel alive. Um, Afterwards, actually, it's not really during the biking that I love, but it's just like the energy it gives me. It's just like so much. Just any form of exercise, so that's really great. But a goal I've set for myself recently is to just get more regimented in life. I have a full schedule now with work blocks and shit, and I'm gonna try to take it really seriously. And yeah, but honestly, I just set this goal with Joe yesterday, like last night. So we're not very far into it, but um, yeah. Another goal I've set for myself is just the vague goal of learning Dutch. I also need to get a job here, so I'm working on that. Okay, what is a? Oh, sorry. Okay, last question. What do you think is the most effective way to promote inclusivity and diversity in work environments? I think a good way to do that is to speak English. I've heard of some cases in teams and stuff, and I've experienced this where people will just speak their native tongue to each other. In IT, this is often Indians and Chinese people, and this is fine if you're just having like a private conversation. But honestly, even if you're in the office, it's kind of nice if you speak English. If anybody else wants to join, but like if you're having a one-on-one conversation, fine. But I've also heard of people, and I've seen people just like in the middle of a conversation, they just like talk to each other in Indian or Chinese, and I'm like, bro, what? Like, well, please don't do that. That's not very nice. If I spoke a language that you didn't, I wouldn't do that. That's rude. um, but to be fair, I mean, like, also, I think it's okay if like it's just a little quip, something that requires a ton of context and I can trust that it's like that. But if you start having a back and forth, then like stop. If it's just a little thing here and there, it's like okay, that's fine. There are perks of speaking the same language and having the same culture, of course. But and like for example, at the family dinners that I have with Joe, everyone speaks Dutch a lot of the time, and they try to speak English for me, and they can speak English, but sometimes it just goes Dutch. And when it does go Dutch, I try to follow along, and I try to speak, I try to respond. I usually respond in English, but I try to catch things that are being said. Um, so I think everyone should just try to meet each other. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like in work, I'm not gonna learn to speak Hindi. Uh, Hindi. I think it's Hindi, or Mandarin, but uh, like I don't know I actually don't know what point I was making there. So I'm just gonna take a couple steps back. Effective ways. I think positions that are only for women are stupid. Positions that are only for men are stupid. Positions that are only for color people are stupid because you'll never know why you were there. You're a token, and that's not good. I think DEI is very stupid. Or not DEI, sorry. Affirmative action is very stupid. and it is unironically racist and makes the problem worse. Um, so I think a way to promote inclusivity and diversity is to just, it's a good question, I guess, because like my answer is just fucking ignore it. Like stop making such a big fucking deal out of it. But how can we get people to do that? Because I know if you don't actually do anything about it, people do segregate themselves a little bit. So how do you actually promote it? I don't know. But the way it's happening right now isn't really fantastic. I mean, it's working, but I think it's making a lot of people jaded. It's working on the surface, but it's not working in the background. Um, Honestly, a lot of the DEI trainings I've had at work are pretty reasonable. Although then it says something like race doesn't have to do with skin color, and I'm like, what? um, Pretty sure it does, and some other ridiculous things. Not to mention the policies and where they draw the lines are a bit eh, and who they try to include. That's very debatable. But I don't know. And also, there's some like, to some degree, you're gonna have to expect to be ostracized for being different, and you're also going to enjoy the perks of fitting in. That's just how it goes. I think that's kind of an eternal thing. There's like there's always a choice between fitting in and expressing yourself. Um, and on a global scale, there's always a choice between order and uniformity and chaos and independence. Um, and where to be is not obvious. It's obvious that totality on either end is bad, but where to go in the middle is not clear. And I think these things work on all the levels, and so it's not obvious where the line should be drawn. But I think people should also recognize that. You should recognize that if you want to express yourself, there are risks, and that if you want to conform, there are also risks. Not risks in the sense like people are gonna hate you or something, but you'll be sad if you're just fully conform. If you're a yes man, you're sad. Um, so yeah, those are the 5 questions. So I'm gonna end it here. Doei.